My business telephone bill just in California got up to $13,000 a month, and this was one of the problems. Doing business internationally, we have learned the incredible savings of both time and money by taking the time to write down an agenda before we begin to dial. And here's another benefit. If you have made an agenda, when it comes time to recall that conversation you had, you've now got the details in writing. When you say, John, how are you doing on those 4 things we talked about the other day? And John says, what 4 things? We didn't talk about that. You now have a written record to show that you did. Remember, people can talk you out of what's in your head, but it's hard to talk you out of what's in your book. Next, if you can afford the luxury, have your calls screened. Then when you pick up the messages, you can decide who to call and when to call, and have the time to formulate the important information before you make the call. Now, this is a luxury, I will admit. It may be that you just have to answer the phone when the call comes in, but at least file this idea away for the future when you might be able to use it. And one more, the telephone at home. Here you have to exercise great care to not let the telephone intrude. During social time with family or friends, my suggestion is that you shut the phone off. They have all those neat devices now, so you can put on the recorder to take messages or just pull the plug. Family is a high priority. Take care that valuable family time is not subject to frequent intrusions. If you set up this rule, you will not only have uninterrupted time with your family and friends, but also they will give you high marks for caring about them enough to make them a priority. Every situation calls for an evaluation of values. Remember, you have to go in search of the ideas. They don't just come by. Make a thorough investigation of the subject on your own. Sort out the ideas. Choose those that you think are most valid and put them to work in your life. Next point, be more alert and analyze all your procedures and tools. Old filing methods, old bookkeeping methods. Some things we do can become quickly outdated, especially these days. Check for all the new tools that can help you to use your time more efficiently. Dictating machines, tape recorders, answering devices, computers, calculators. There is just about every tool imaginable in today's marketplace. I now have a fabulous computer in my office that can do the most amazing things and save a great deal of time. I also have a portable computer typewriter that I can take on an airplane or in my motorhome. Then I merely transfer what I have typed onto special cassettes or send the information via telephone back to the main terminal. When I get home, all of my letters and scripts are typed and waiting for my signature or my attention. So take a look, do some research, do some shopping, find out. No telling how much you can improve your efficiency or multiply your skills by eliminating the barriers and the hindrances so that you are now free to do all the creative things that make for fortune and lifestyle. Now here's an important time saver. Learn to ask questions. This habit will serve in so many ways. Have you ever talked to someone for an hour and then asked some questions and found out that you just wasted the last hour? Make a note. Almost everything is symptomatic of what's really wrong. Surface details don't usually give us enough information to effectively communicate. So, ask questions before.
Let us say together, it's necessary to detoxify your life. Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you are serious about reaching goals? Raise your hands, please. Very good. Jim Rohn asked this question. Look at the people in your life and ask the question, what is this relationship doing to me? See, in order for you to go to the next level, there are some people you need to let go. Let us say together, let go or be dragged. There's some people, because of their negativity, they're emotional vampires. They will drain you. You want to be around people that you can learn from, that you can grow from. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough out of Atlanta said, if you're the smartest one in your group, you need to get a new group. Les, can I change them? No. It's a full-time job changing yourself. There's some people that's comfortable being negative, comfortable being a volunteer victim. There's some people that's so negative, they can walk into a dark room and begin to develop. Oh, behave. My medication wearing off now. When you're talking about earning more money, you got to be serious. One sickness can wipe out a fortune. 95% of the people who filed bankruptcy last year did so because of medical expenses. People say money won't make you happy, but everybody want to find out for themselves. A friend of mine, Rita Davenport, said money ain't important, but it's right up there with oxygen. And let me tell you something, fellas. Even if you're as homeless as I am, you got some money, women will find something cute on you. Oh, he's got earlobes like Tom Cruise. He's got a walk like Denzel Washington. I used to be so broke I'd walk past a bank and trip the alarm. Creditors would call the house and my children would answer the phone and say, my daddy say he ain't home. And sometimes they would catch me on the phone. May I speak to Les Brown, please? Sorry, but he's not here. You sound like Les Brown. Don't you go there, big boy. Oh my God! Red Fox said money can't buy you happiness, but it can make a big down payment. Oh, this thing called life. Here's something else. Write this down. You're going to fail your way to success. There are people who look promising. They're going to disappoint you, hurt your feelings. There are people who should be there to encourage you, to motivate you. They're going to be the #1 members of the discouragement club. Before things get better for you, they're going to get real bad. When you have a dream, think it not strange that you'll face the fiery furnaces of this world. You will, not you might, you will have tribulations. How many of you know that's true? Raise your hands, please. Things are going to happen to you. And don't complain. Don't go around telling everybody. 80% don't care. 20% glad it's you. Suck it up and keep on prospecting and make it happen. Life is happening to everybody.
No wonder he later says when Jesus rises from the dead, Peter is one of the guys who said, I go a-fishing. Because when you are full of shame, you just want to get away. Who am I preaching to today? What are you running away from that God has for you, that God wants to do in your life, that God has purpose for you, but because of the nagging memories of your own inconsistencies, you find yourself in a dilemma. I am sent here today to talk to you. God told me to tell you, I still want you. Jesus rose from the dead with Peter on his mind. Do y'all hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? Jesus rose from the dead with Peter on his mind. He rose from the dead and said, go tell the disciples. I think it's Mark 6 and 7. He says, don't be alarmed. He spoke to the women, don't be alarmed. He said, you are looking for Jesus, the Nazarene, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. He is not here. He is not here. He's gone. He's up from the dead. See the place where he lay? This is where he used to be. This is where he is. But go tell the disciples and Peter. Go tell the disciples is one thing, but out of all 12 disciples, he calls Peter by name. He calls Peter by name because Peter doesn't think that he's still a disciple. He thinks that he's messed up so bad that he's lost his place and he's lost his destiny and he's lost. God told me there's somebody I'm preaching to today. You think you messed up so bad that you ruined your destiny. It's a lie. The Lord sent me here to preach to you, to call you by name. Go tell the disciples and Peter. Go tell the disciples and Mary. Go tell the disciples and Shawanda. Go tell the disciples and Helen. Go tell the disciples and Fred. Go tell the disciples and Robert. God is calling you by name. God is saying simply, I'm going to meet you in Galilee. There I'm going to show myself just as I told. And in spite of your shame, I still have a plan for your life. Can you imagine, as I close, what it must have been like for Peter to preach the inaugural address on the day of Pentecost? Out of all 12 disciples, Peter is chosen to preach on the day of Pentecost. Oh, woman by the fire, betraying, shameful, disgrace. Peter is raised up to speak to all of the people that he used to warm himself by the fire with and said, "O house of Israel, know assuredly that this same Jesus whom ye crucified have been made both Lord and Christ." He preached the gospel to them. He preached the resurrection to them. He preached the power of God to them. You can turn around from disgrace to grace. You can come from failure to victory. You can get rid of your shame. Some people can receive a blessing from the Lord and come up in their standards and still maintain their focus. Other people, the moment they get 2 nickels and a dime, they start acting like strangers you never knew before. They just cannot handle the blessing of the Lord. One good blessing and they can't speak to anybody, and one good blessing and they're shaking your hand with 3 fingers out. You don't have to waste time going on a witch hunt. You don't have to chase down rumors. You don't have to chase down gossip. You don't have to change anybody's mind about you. You don't have to change their attitude. Your blessing is not predicated upon anybody else's opinion. The only thing you have to worry about is not cursing yourself.
One of the things that I believe can destroy your family, your organization, your existence, is to allow a toxic person to come in unaware. Here's what I believe to be true. Hateful people are simply hurt people. I believe with all my heart. People who are hateful are people who have been hurt. And guess what? The problem with hurt people is they do what? They hurt people.
You should surround yourself with people who genuinely want the best for you. And if the people around you are not supporting you in your endeavors and they put you down and they punish you for your virtues or even punish you too intensely for your faults and fail to reward you when you're doing what you should be doing, that there comes a point where you would be better off finding someone who is actually on your side. And that can even be the case with family members, although of course that's a very difficult decision to make. But sometimes people do have the misfortune of being tangled up with family members who are operating in a manner that's so counterproductive to their health that it's better for them, despite the pain, to cease communication with them.
See, a lot of folk won't let you forget what you used to do or what you have done, what mistakes you've made. All of us have made some mistakes in life. All of us have done some things that if we had them to do over again, we wouldn't do it again. There are a lot of things that if I had it to do over again, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done it differently. Well, it didn't happen that way. And that's what you call life. I didn't do it like that. Oh, you don't want me to live that down, huh? You want to keep on putting that in my face about what I did. Guess what? I'm not interested. That's what I did then. Won't do it today, so you are picking on an innocent man.
There are people that do not want you to lift your head and to walk proudly in this life. Well, they will say to you is, hey, don't you remember what you did back then? But see, the haters, they see that, and because they don't have that peace, they don't want you to have it either. I guarantee you, if you show me a person that is a hateful person in this life, I will show you a person that has been treated hatefully in his own life. He's been treated cruelly. He has been outed. He has been disenfranchised. He or she has been disenfranchised.
But I would say, even if you don't like the idea of removing the toxic people in your life, you should certainly endeavor to surround yourself with the sorts of people that you would want to surround someone that you regarded as your friend or loved one. So you need to extend the same courtesy to yourself, especially to the part of yourself that's striving upward, that you would to someone that you cared for.
You're looking at a guy who got rejected a lot of times. I had friends who were friends that I grew up with, that over time, like for some reason, they just didn't want to hang with me anymore. So, what do? Well, I can only tell you what I did. I got busy working on becoming a stronger version of myself. And I put all of my focus and energy on developing my skills as an athlete, getting stronger, getting bigger, getting faster, and getting better at the sport of football. So that allowed me to hone my group of friends, bring in a group of friends, to lead a group of people, and to use the gifts that I've been given, that I naturally have, to gain influence in school and socially. So that's my experience. It was through sports and football. But I guarantee you, bro, that there is something about you that's magnificent, and you're going to have to work on that and find a group of kids that appreciate that. I would invite you to play sports because that's, it's what I do. But if that's not your inclination, find a group, find other cliques of individuals that you can gain influence with, that you could earn friendships through because you have a common goal or a common value.
Unapologetically get rid of all things, people, and situations that no longer belong in your life. That means you are going to boldly step into and walk into the unfamiliar. Boldly and abruptly get rid of things, people, and situations, relationships, friendships, surroundings. Deciding that you love yourself enough to no longer walk in the direction of pain, drama, or dysfunction. There's no way that you can say that you love yourself when you don't like most of your friends. There's no way that you can say that you are really concerned about your career getting to another level if you still have those managers, agents, lawyers, business people, or anything associated to your business. Let me tell y'all something. I realized a long time ago, I only got one Tyrese Gibson. I'm not angry. I'm convinced. Who wakes up every day and says, I want to invite as many dysfunctional and crazy people in my life and around my life every single day? Who does that? You don't like them, so why are they still there? You don't trust them, so why are they still there?
So I believe also hateful people have a need to put you down because they really are trying to make themselves feel better. They lose sight of contentment. They stop counting their blessings and they start counting the blessings of other people. That's who they are. There are people that do not like to see you advancing in life.
Other thing is that in order to get out of a rut, we need some coaching. Find some trusted critics, people that you know care about you and love you. So there's some things that keeps us from growing and getting out of ruts. Number one, we identify with feedback. We take it personal when someone wants to give us some feedback on where we are falling short and tell us about our blind spots. We want to have everything being positive about us. We're not perfect. It hurts. I have a friend who's a trusted critic. I don't like him, but I love him. He doesn't tell me the things I want to hear. He tells me what I need to hear so I can grow. It hurts. It hurts when he put me on the hot seat. I can't stand it. But that's the only way that I can grow. And I'm glad that he loves me enough to risk our friendship to tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear.
Take a look at the people that are around you. And if they're not on the side of what's good for you, then walk away. You want friends who, when something good happens to you, that's good for you. They're happy about that. They're not like all bitter and resentful underground and like saying horrible things behind your back and trying to drag you down. It's like that's not helpful. And then when something bad happens to you and you go to them and you say, look, this terrible thing happened to me, they're not secretly gloating about the fact that catastrophe finally befell you.
Sometimes we have to ask ourselves, what's using my life? Heard a guy give a lecture one time that says, we are today what we were when. And he was talking about the fact that we, to a great extent, behave, think, react because of some previous experience that we've had. So when you begin to look at your past, give an interpretation that empowers you. That's where I used to be. That's not where I am now. I'm growing. I love myself unconditionally, and I forgive myself. If I knew better, I would have done better. The other thing is about life, when things happen to you, when you permit things to use you, you can't change the past, but you can reinterpret how you see it. Same event, but reinterpreted. An interpretation that empowers me. Get a support group, somebody that you can talk to. People who perhaps might have a similar problem. Support groups are very powerful, that you can share some of the challenges that you're going through. And it might be a situation where one person can give you an idea of how they handle that situation and create an opening for you. Begin to stimulate some possibilities in your mind on how you can resolve the problem. We can't grow by ourselves. As I mentioned before, we grow from people and projects.
Think of it like this. For every peace stealer you allow in your life, you are 20% more likely to live stressed, on edge, to have a crisis. I'm asking you to find happy friends. I am saying you should put up some boundaries. You don't have to make a big announcement. Like I did, just little by little, spend less and less time with that person. If you don't get the wrong people out of your life, you'll never meet the right ones. Especially in your inner circle, the people who are closest to you need to be stable, consistent, happy, responsible people that move you towards your destiny. Like iron sharpens iron, you make each other better. This is the reason many people are stuck. Who do you have in your life? What are you giving your time and energy to? Putting out fires? Trying to keep someone happy? Feeling guilty because you can't meet their demands? That's going to wear you out. It's time to make a change. You can't please everyone.
Are we so immature that we can't hear different opinions? Even those we don't like, sits back in amazement, horrified, call the police, and make our own judgments on what's being said and the validity of it. Do we not have the maturity to put forward another counter argument, which, if we are confident in what we're saying, will demolish that which we don't agree with? Anyone that wants to silence people rather than argue their case can't have much confidence in their own case, surely. And once you go down this road of giving authority the right to decide what can be said, what opinions can be had, you are in a tyranny, and that's where we're going now. But it's bigger than that, because it's not just political correctness. You can't say this, you can't say that, you must say that. It's also the fact that humanity has been hoaxed on a monumental scale in relation to freedom of expression and freedom of information. And it's been done out of an area that I call the devil's playground. It's better known as Silicon Valley. What's happened is, when you do the research, intelligence organizations like the CIA in the United States, the National Security Agency, and the Pentagon through an organization called DARPA, the Technological Development Arm of the Pentagon, they began seed funding technology and companies to develop what has become now known as the Internet, and an outgrowth of that, what became known as social media, and the search engine technology, which eventually became known as Google. All those were seed funded by this military intelligence network. And when they were selling it, because you can't show something's real face at the start, otherwise people will reject it and it won't get anywhere. You have to put another face to the world. So it was Google. Oh yeah, Google, yeah, and we just go to search engine, we can find what we like, that's great, hey. And social media, oh, you post to your friends, you can say what you like, there's no censorship, isn't it great? And then it builds, and then it builds, and then it builds, and now you've reached a point now with Facebook where it claims 2.2 billion active users in a global population of 7.5 billion. You have this 90% monopoly on search engines, searches of Google. You have YouTube, which has got basically a monopoly on the posting of internet videos, which is owned by Google. And once this monopolistic situation was reached, then they started saying, okay, now we've got this much control, we're going to start deciding what you see and what you don't see.
And when you make up your mind to be defined by a vision of the future, instead of the memories of the past, all you have to do is make a decision. just with a level of intensity that has such a strong amplitude of energy that in that moment your body begins to respond to your mind. In other words, the choice that you make becomes a decision that you never forget. It becomes an experience. And the stronger you have that emotion, the more you are going to pay attention to what you're focusing on in your mind. And now you're beginning to remember your future. Long-term memories are created by strong, highly charged emotional events. The stronger the emotional charge you feel from some event, the more you pay attention to the cause, and the brain takes a snapshot, and that's called a memory. So then, how do you change the memory of the past? You got to start remembering your future, and you got to come out of your resting state, and that moment has to define you. So everybody's done this, and you just got to have a clear intent on what you want. And so learn, study, get something in your brain that's going to stimulate you about what's possible. And then begin to dream or begin to build a model of what it could look like, and don't let go of it. And begin to experience the emotions of how you feel when it happens. And teach your body emotionally what that future is going to feel like. So it only requires two things: a clear intention, that's a function of a coherent, organized brain, and an elevated emotion, which is a function of your heart and your body. And when you combine those two, you're going to change your energy. And when you change your energy, you're going to change your life. But that's the start, because it's so easy to forget your vision. It's easier to forget it than remember it, right? It's easier to believe in your past than to believe in your future. It's easier to romance your past than to romance your future, or fall in love with your past than it is your future. But people who start falling in love with their future more than their past falls away. So then, you got to write down the thoughts in that day that are not going to sneak by your awareness unchecked. Like, I can't, it's too hard, I'll never change, what's wrong with me, it's my mother's fault, my father was an alcoholic, my ex was a whatever. You gotta be so conscious of those thoughts that you're not going to let them slip by and go unconscious to them. You got to decide what choices you got to stop making. You got to stop behaving a certain way. You got to stop having the same experiences and staying away from those people that create those same experiences. And you got to watch those emotions that are going to bring you to a lower denominator, because the moment you start feeling suffering or pain or frustration, you just disconnected from the energy of your future, and now you're back to the energy of your past.
And that is to fully realize that there are two dimensions, so to speak, to who you are. The one that is defined in form, which includes the physical form and the psychological form and the thinking entity. So your consciousness has the two dimensions. There's an intermediate area, but we don't need to go there. There's the conscious dimension of thinking, and that creates your conventional sense of identity. And there is the deeper space where there is a vast consciousness that is not defined in form. So there's the two of you, the known, the person, and the unknown, the undefined, or as the Buddha called it, the unmanifested, the unborn, the uncreated. And the Buddha added, this is one of the sutras in my free translation. So he said, there is the unborn, the unmanifested, the uncreated. If there were not, the sutras are a little bit repetitive, if there were not the unborn, the unmanifested, the uncreated, there would be no escape from the born, the manifested, and the created. And I'm adding in my free translation, and you would be completely stuck in it and with it. So there is a dimension in every human that is far deeper than what you conventionally consider is the I. So you can say there is the I that is defined through thought, and there is a deeper I that is not defined. And the purpose of your existence really is, in evolutionary terms, is to find that deeper being, the undefined, the unknown, and bring that into this dimension and into your life. And you all have made the discovery already that you don't need to think continuously, and that your deeper sense of who you are does not depend on what your mind is saying about who you are. There is a more immediate, much more real sense of I than you could ever find through thinking about who you are.
%80 of success is psychology, 20% is mechanics. The problem is most people live in their heads. They have their dream, they have their goal, they have the desire, they get hyped up about it, they get fearful about it, and they just don't execute.
Let's imagine for a few moments what our life would be like if we could access 20% of our brain's capacity.
It is not the movement of the clock that produces the newness of life. It is the movement in your mind. Your old friends won't understand it, but behind it, you're gonna hear all kinds of things said about you. Throw it behind you. The enemies that you see today, you will see them no more. No weapon formed against you shall be able to prosper.
Action is the key to everything. Even if you take the wrong action, if you keep changing your approach, you can succeed in anything. It's an illusion that knowledge is power. Knowledge is potential power. Knowledge is trumped every single day by execution. Don't get me wrong, I'm a strategist. The right strategy can save you a decade. But if you don't have the right psychology, you'll learn the strategy, you won't apply it. So psychology is the driving force that creates an extraordinary business and an extraordinary life.
I've never met a person who was not successful that didn't have a great amount of self-discipline within their life. Self-discipline and being able to perform and being able to keep your life on schedule and being able to keep commitments and promises and meet deadlines is essential to success.
Understanding and knowing that we can move from where we are, that we can begin to design the kind of life that empowers us, that gives us happiness, that enable us to be on top of who we are. Knowing that as we begin to explore new horizons and new vistas in life, that as we begin to focus on developing ourselves, activating the thinker in us and disciplining and putting on hold the emotional part of ourselves. It's not easy, but through practice and practice and practice, practice makes improvement. You can always better your best. You can always go beyond anything that you have ever done. You'll never hit a state of perfection. You're always bigger than what you do. And so all you're looking for are new breakthroughs through practice and practice and practice. You'll get better and better and better.
Either you're going to control your time or your time's going to control you. Either you are going to dictate the terms of your life or you're going to be someone who reacts and responds throughout their life. So one of the tips that I've covered before but not enough people implement that I promise you is a quality of max out performers that relates to their time is they control it. They do not react and respond. They dictate the terms of their life most of the time.
Just go follow your dream, man. Go make your life happen. Identify your God-given gift and go and get your life. Quit tripping because you don't have what a group of people told you you need to be successful. If you're not a degree person, you can go to school all you want. If that's not in you, how you gonna get a degree? Quit letting people tell you the route to success when clearly God created you to be different. Just go that route. All my friends got college degrees, all of them. I flew all of them to Cancun, Mexico last year. Now, if you want to be a doctor, scientist, or lawyer, you got to get a degree. But if you're not that person, you can still make it. Quit tripping because you don't have what he got. You ain't finna be what he is. God made you different. Just go be different.
The number one thing probably killing your dream isn't your hater, isn't the feedback, isn't the criticism, right? Isn't the concern. It's the energy you expense and expand by worrying so much. It's your addiction to other people's approval that will ultimately kill your dream. That's actually the symptom. The symptom is, I'm so addicted to what other people think about me. The disease is lack of self-confidence in ourselves. Build up your self-confidence. So this addiction to what other people think about you is eliminated or reduced in your life. The fact of the matter is this, what other people think about you is none of your business.
I vote that you learn from these people, that you learn how to forget about the past, that you learn how to ignore people that are negative, that you learn to control your vengeful ideas, and that you learn to move on into the future where you're going to meet better people and better times are to be had. That's what I would recommend. Don't worry about these people from the past.
You won't have the strength to move forward if you're weeping over what's behind. It takes a lot of energy to think about the past, relive the hurts, wonder why it didn't work out. That person you lost, if they were supposed to be here, they would still be here. If somebody left you, I say it respectfully, you don't need them. If it didn't work out the way you had planned, it wasn't supposed to.
Behind every moment of adversity in your life, two things will happen. There is a lesson and there is a blessing. Every moment of adversity has those two things that come with it. Pain always leaves a present. Every time you're in pain, it leaves a gift behind. Because God always has a gift behind every moment of pain that you have. When a man leaves you, there is a gift behind him leaving. Sometimes the breakup is the blessing. See, sometimes you got to get rid of a man in order for God to give you the man that you really need. So every time something bad happens, you just have to wait on the lesson and the blessing. It always happens. It always happens.
None of us can afford to have a life that is controlled by someone else, or a life that is basically controlled by our emotions. I learned many years ago that there are two kinds of people. There's the type of person who says, I'm going to wait till I feel like it before I do it. And then there's a person who says, I've got to do it so that I feel like it. One will never get anything done because they're still waiting to feel the moment to move. And the other person says, no, I need to move, and then I will begin to feel the moment.
If you want to get around bitter and complaining people, get around people who are not seeing much activity. They're bitter, they're complaining, they're cynical, and they're jealous because nothing is happening. If you want to get around less gossip and less jealousy, get around successful, busy people. Because busy people don't have time to care what's going on in your life. I have no need to investigate what's going on in your life. I have so much going on in my own life that I'm not interested in what I heard that they said that you thought, that if I thought what you said that I didn't mean if you heard it. The only people who have time for that is people who are not doing anything. And they watch your life like it's a soap opera because they're living their life vicariously through you. What's going on in your life intrigues them because nothing is going on in their life. And if you want to stop that from happening to you, wake up in the bed and know what you're going to have to get up out of the bed with an agenda. When you have an agenda, you don't spend time worrying about how you feel because it doesn't make any difference how you feel. You woke up with something to do.
There's no limits. You know, don't let the world ever put limits on you. You can do anything you want to do. But make sure if you have a vision, make sure the vision is written. You know, make sure you have something to actually chase and not just hoping and wishing and all these different things. So I tell guys this all the time. Put your plan together and then work the plan. Don't work somebody else's plan. right? That's one thing about the league. I love the league, but the league is somebody else's brand, right? You have to create your own brand yourself. And your brand is whatever you feel like doing, whatever your heart is passionate about, chase it.
People go through their lives without knowing what it is they want to do, what they want to accomplish. Be clear in your mind in what you intend to achieve. Know what you are going to do. That doesn't seem like too much to ask.
You got to affirm, I will persist until I succeed. You have to have persistence, you have to have patience and perseverance. It takes courage to come back again and again and again. Write this down. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy.
Count probably has high cholesterol. Why? Over the last 6 years, he never paid attention to either one. And it doesn't matter whether it's a dollar, whether it's your money, or whether it's your cholesterol count. All you got to do is commit the errors, and just because disaster doesn't fall on you at the end of the first day that you don't eat an apple. You say, well, I didn't eat an apple today, and tonight I'm not ill. Well, you got to be brighter than that. Someday you got to leave first grade. The reason we make those first grade desks so small so they won't fit at age 25. Right? You don't belong here anymore. Come on. Now let me give you the secret to success. Formula for failure. A few errors in judgment repeated every day for 1 month starts the weakness, starts the disaster process. You can imagine what happens in 6 years. Now here's the formula for success. A few simple disciplines. Practice every day. And you've started a whole new process called a whole new life. A few simple disciplines practiced every day. And if you decide today to go for the apple instead of the Hershey bar, I'm telling you, you have begun the process of turning your life around. And if you keep up that process, not only with your health habits, but with your money habits, and with your communication habits, with your sales habits, management habits, and every other habit that you got, if you'll start that process, eliminate the errors and replace it with disciplines practiced, I'm telling you, you can start this process of life change immediately. After today, you don't ever have to be the same again. Only by choice. You don't have to walk out of here the same as you walked in today. Only by choice. You can start a whole new process. And you say, well, Mr. Rohn, is it that simple? Yes, it's that simple. Where else would you start? But with an apple. You don't have to start with something staggering. What if you should be walking around the block for your good health and you don't? What'll that do in 6 years? I'm telling you, the word is disaster. You could and you should and you don't. Here's an even stronger word. You won't. I mean, don't might mean you're careless. Won't probably means you're stubborn. And either one's called disaster. Could, should, don't. I'm telling you, that's why at the end of 6 years, I found myself with pennies in my pocket, nothing in the bank, creditors calling. Now how do you change all that? The next 6 years I got rich. The next 6 years I became a millionaire. By the time I'm 31, I'm a millionaire. How about that? You say, well, Mr. Rohn, what happened? Well, strangely enough, during that second 6 years of my economic life, the government was about the same. I'm telling you, taxes were about the same. My negative relatives were the same. I'm telling you, the economy was about the same, and prices were about the same, and everything else was about the same. Circumstances were about the same. Then how come I got rich? How come I totally changed my life? I was not the same. Somebody says, well, what did you go to work on to do all that? I started with my philosophy. I started amending my errors by doing some better thinking, changing my mind, coming up with ideas that I didn't have before I met my teacher. And once that whole process started for me, I'm telling you, I changed my whole life. Within a 6 year period, I was never the same. And I've kept up that process all these years. That process all these years. That process all these years.